all of a sudden the status quo seems a little bit foreign, your perception changes and you actually find yourself stopping to consider where your personal values align or don't align. I'm Silver, the Rogue Yogi, a born clairvoyant, near-death experiencer, and I work with women to help them remember that they are their own best guru. Today we're going to talk about a couple of signs that your soul self is waking up a bit and wanting to connect with your ego or your personality. These are some of the first signs of spiritual awakening. I think one of the biggest and one of the most meaningful is you notice. And a lot of this is going to be in hindsight, not in the moment. But you notice yourself questioning people, assumptions, relationships that you never had questioned before. And Albert Einstein was so clear about curiosity being integral to our development. He called curiosity holy. And he's quoted as having said, the most important thing is never to stop questioning. And this shift begins without your noticing it first. All of a sudden, the status quo seems a little bit foreign. Your perception changes and you actually find yourself stopping to consider where your personal values align or don't align with everything around you. And that means in every area of life and in every relationship in life. You may have friendships that you realize and likely will feel guilty for doing so, but you might realize like this relationship, it's not even. And I actually feel usually worse after spending time with this person. You might notice a dynamic at the office that you used to let go of and not say anything about. Maybe there's a colleague who assumes you'll always be there to help them pick up their slack. And again, your soul self kind of perks up and is like, this doesn't feel right. This feels like we're compromising. Whereas before you wouldn't even question it. You start to look at the roles you play in your life and how you play them. Maybe you are a wife, a daughter, a friend. Suddenly you're seeing all of these roles and you notice you're evaluating your own performance. And the evaluation has everything to do with how authentic am I in this role. I realized that in particular as a friend and as a wife, so much of what I would allow did not align with my personal values. And so much of what I would allow actually deepened my problematic self-esteem. I used to think of the word boundaries as jargon, but when you get to this place, for example, when you're noticing, okay, I actually have a couple of roles I play in my life, and some of them are I'm not operating as ideally as I would like to be. You actually take the time to go within and consider how can I make my participation in this dynamic more authentic. And that usually entails creating boundaries. And you're going to notice all of these tips, no matter how different or similar they all go toward honoring your true soul self over the autopilot version of yourself you may have become without even realizing it. Another sign is performative exchanges and things like really hollow and meaningless small talk. Maybe that just used to slide right by. And maybe now you're like actually feeling how incongruent those kind of conversations are. You're feeling that on the inside. It feels like sandpaper. And that leads you to kind of review all aspects of your life and to kind of trace backwards like, well, where else am I participating in a really surface level, meaningless kind of relationship? And the thought of curating your relationships is like the right thing to do. And it's not coming from a punitive place. It's coming from a place of honoring yourself. When your soul starts really kind of reaching up and wanting to be honored and heard, after some amount of time, you'll realize signs. And Carl Jung coined them synchronicities. They were events that just really couldn't be explained reasonably by chance. You start noticing these signs, and the next part of that is you start trusting and heeding those signs. So say you're being introduced to a new person, trust, and the old you would then just automatically extend that trust and acceptance to this new person. But instead, wherever you notice in your body, your gut or up here, if you feel mismatched to this new person, you start to heed your own intuition over the social structure that used to more so inform your actions and how you behave. And then your standards for yourself, like literally for yourself, in honor of yourself, they naturally rise because you're connecting with your soul self more and more. And that eternal version of ourselves is pure and is noble and is deserving of respect and protection. Even as somebody who grew up with just like terrible self-esteem, I can tell now, there are certain things I won't allow anymore. And that's such a big difference from how I used to live. I honestly used to be a doormat and mistakenly think that I was being a good person. And finally, you realize you are special and unique, but just like everybody else is. And that no matter what you do for a job, you naturally begin looking to be of service. Martin Luther King said this best. He said, anybody can be great because everybody can serve. And that will likely be a really new and unexpected mindset for you to catch on to. I hope this helps. I'm always happy to book sessions with women to help them return to their clarity and agency. And I'll meet you in the next one.